Welcome to the Black Sheep podcast, brought to you by BBH. I'm your host, writer and performer, Daniella Isaacs. We want to know what it really means to be a black sheep and work out how we can all get a bit better at going against the grain. We're going to be asking some of our favourite black sheep about the rules they've broken to get them where they are today. Black Sheep is a podcast about rules and how to break them. Hello! Our black sheep this week is Ben Lebus. Ben is the founder of Mob Kitchen. After spending years noticing students yearn after delicious food, watching them ogle over hours of porn, of the food variety, and desperate to prove that there was more to student cuisine than pesto pasta, Ben decided to take things into his own hands. Over his mum's kitchen table, while keeping up a job as a Deliveroo driver, Ben set up Mob Kitchen, publishing recipes online that fed 4 people for under a tenner. Now, Mob Kitchen has 2 books, over 200,000 Instagram followers, and they've just released their own spice blends. They're even strategizing food delivery trucks travelling around universities, and Ben says it's still just the start. Hello, Ben.
Hi there.
I kick off the podcast most weeks by asking, do you think of yourself as a black sheep?
Yes, I think that definitely along the way of starting my own business, there have been various, little moments or hurdles that I've had to overcome, and playing it straight by the rules and following the usual kind of approach and way of things definitely wouldn't have allowed me to overcome those hurdles. So I think, yeah, in the role that I've been running for the last 2.5 years, which is building the business, and I guess with anyone building a business, breaking rules and being able to adapt is really important. And
do you think in the social media kind of influencer / foodie sphere, everyone thinks of themselves as a black sheep?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the most successful people out there, the people in the scene at the moment, the ones who I now feel like I'm the black sheep when I think about people like Jamie Oliver, Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, Nigella Lawson. These guys are the old institution. They're the old guards, and you think of them as definitely playing by the rules. But, these guys back in their day were definitely going against the grain and doing something different to what existed, in their time. So, yeah, I feel like I like to think that I'm special. I feel like, a lot of the people that are doing similar things to me in the food world are often having to innovate and change and break the rules in order to get to where they are.
That's a perfect point for us to start off with the first rule that you've broken, Ben.
The first rule that I have broken is play it cool.
Tell us how you have not played it so cool, please.
Well, I think it's funny. I'd first love to touch on just the rule of play it cool. When throughout school, throughout university, there was always that idea that in order to be the best, or the coolest people in the year always played it cool. They didn't care about anything. They never looked like they cared about anything. If anything good was to happen, it was to come to them. They weren't to kind of go out of their way and do it themselves. I always remember my one of my best friends, Milo, who is, I have to say, probably the coolest guy that I know. I commented under like Fern Cotton's picture, like for 50 photos in a row on Instagram saying, please check out Mob Kitchen. And he started writing under every single one saying 0 chill.
Oh my God. How embarrassing.
And I can remember kind of thinking, like, God's sake, get off my back when he was doing it. And I don't know. I mean, it did kind of strike me when that happened, where I thought to myself, yeah, I guess the way that I am approaching this is very 0 chill, and I am not playing it cool at all. But I think it's 100% necessary in order to, get the business to where I want to build it. So, I guess basically at the beginning I set up Mob in my mum and dad's kitchen after I left Edinburgh University. I very, very arrogantly thought that if I upload 2 food videos to Facebook in this format, they're going to go viral overnight and I'm going to become the next Jamie Oliver. That obviously didn't happen. And 2 months later, I was stuck sitting at home with mum and dad getting increasingly exasperated and frustrated that I was still there and not with all of my mates down in London grafting away and working in my first job. So I had to come up with I guess, kind of innovative and definitely a lot of zero chill ways of trying to build the platform, raise awareness. So the first of those was someone came up to me once at a party drunk, and I wish I could remember who it was because it's the best piece of advice anyone's ever given me, which was utilize your friends and utilize anyone you've ever connected with on Facebook and Instagram. Set up little groups that make people feel like they're part of what you're doing. So I set up all these groups called kind of mob best friends, mob cousins friends, mob primary school friends, mob secondary school friends, mob university friends, and got all these little kind of groups of people and sent these messages out telling them what I was doing and telling them
Was this all on Facebook?
This is all on Facebook. Telling them that I needed their help and that mob wouldn't work without them, and that I needed them to be tagging and liking and sharing, and definitely traditionally things that are not playing it cool. But that was one thing that really helped, and it allowed me to quickly build mob out into, you know, filling up my friendship group and the group outside of that and the group outside of that.
And just for anyone who doesn't know exactly what mob is, what was the kind of beginning steps? Was it making recipes specifically was it on Facebook initially or not?
Yeah, so it wasn't. So I mean, these things change so quickly because now, speaking in, you know, summer 2019, not a lot of my mates are using Facebook at all. They're all on Instagram. But definitely when I left university, none of us were really using Instagram. We were all on Facebook. And I actually have to say, I think building a platform on Facebook is so much easier because you're able to do these things like create groups and whatever. But yeah, I mean, the idea was that I wanted to create a platform on Facebook that would put out food videos showing people how to cook delicious, healthy recipes, feeding 4 for under a tenner. Mm-hmm. So the idea was to get a big kind of student demographic excited about food, create a platform that was by a, you know, just finished student for students. And yeah, it was, you know, the type of food videos that we were making were those overhead food videos that was pioneered by BuzzFeed's channel Tasty, mm-hmm. which were going super viral, and everyone was obsessed with those quick form content. And so yeah, we shot those videos, we uploaded them, and yeah, as I mentioned, it just didn't take off in any the way that I thought that it was going to. So I had to basically come up with all these ideas about how to fast track that growth, and a lot of it involved really putting myself out there on the line and not being cool at all.
So first step was going out through your initial Facebook network.
So first step was the Facebook network. Second thing was I thought, you know, the Facebook network's really good, but these are people that I know and they're people that my friends know. So there's still a lot of connection to me here. Obviously, the way that I'm going to start getting this really big is if I can start accessing a completely new audience. Yeah. So firstly, I had probably not a massive amount of matches on Tinder, but a big group of matches on Tinder, and I sent them a copied and pasted message to every single one of my Tinder matches saying, please, could you follow my page on Facebook? And I promise that wasn't done in a creepy way. There was actually, I guess, a bit of logic behind it, where I thought, these are people who I've matched with who I know a lot of them I will have zero connection to at all. And if, you know, at least like 10 or 11 of them are like, you know what, I kind of back the slightly different approach, then
So
maybe...
wait, were you swiping on Tinder to get business, not to go on dates?
I guess for a bit, yeah.
Oh, and did it work?
I mean, there were, you know, I got some fuck offs from people saying, I don't want to be helping with your business is a bit of a weird message. But actually, I got some messages from people being like, I really back that you're kind of using this for, I get the innovation, really, I guess, in your approach.
Can I say, in a bid to not play it cool in business, that's a very play it cool move from a date. To be like, I don't care about you, but I care about your business.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, so Tinder, the rumour has it you were also a Deliveroo driver putting secret leaflets into pizza boxes?
Yeah, so through lack of cash and also through beginning to go increasingly mad, just sitting around at home waiting for this viral moment that was not happening, I decided that I needed to get out there and really just start moving. So I signed up to become a Deliveroo rider, and actually that feeling, and I printed out 2,000 flyers and basically hid flyers in pizza boxes when I was delivering them to give them to the people. And it was a way of getting the word out, but it was also a way of, I think, there's something definitely when you're building like an online business, definitely with one that you're kind of like relying on having a certain audience size or followers in order for the business to really kind of kick into effect. It often feels like the power is not really in your own hands to make that happen. You're waiting on lots of different forces to happen, maybe something going viral or whatever. It's often not really in your control. And there was something about getting on a Deliveroo bike and actually riding with a flyer that felt like I was in some way at least like controlling the destiny of like those singular people that I was going to, and was able to have some kind of control over that. So there was the Deliveroo riding.
I'm assuming that is a broken rule too, right? Like if Deliveroo found out about that.
100%. Yeah. Although they did message me, having heard this story on the day of my book launch, saying they really wanted to work with me. So I don't know if they probably found it funny. Yeah, exactly. What's another zero chill thing that I did?
I think you also told me that you stuck your flyers onto magazine fronts. Am I right?
Yeah, so when we went around flying at universities, I'd go around all the university shops and I would put my flyers in front of all the magazines in the university shops. Don't know how long they lasted there, but again, you know, getting the word out, and definitely not you know, in accordance with the rules of those shops. And I also printed out a lot of flyers and stood outside supermarkets in big university cities and handed the flyers out to all the students going in, asking them to go into the supermarket, buy the ingredients on this recipe list and cook it, and then follow mob as well.
And was this while you were still at university or afterwards coming back?
This was after I'd left university. So I graduated, I filmed the first batch of recipes in that summer, and then, you know, I was gainfully unemployed and just plugging away for like 8 months, hoping for the best, really.
And as you're doing this, just thinking of your friend Milo trolling you on Instagram, was there any element of shame attached to it, or like embarrassment?
It's funny because so many people come up to me and they're like, God, I wish I was able to have that like shameless approach to building something, because like look where it is now. Yeah. It's worked. I backed the idea so hard, and I backed the idea so hard that I just didn't think about it. I just didn't care. I just don't care. I don't care that I look lame, like putting myself out there so much. It was all I thought about. I just didn't. Nothing else mattered. It couldn't matter less as long as I was building the mob, basically. So
it's so weird that we think of that as a kind of shameful thing. To kind of have some self-belief is almost like something you need to be embarrassed about.
I know. Yeah, I know. And it's awful. And I think, you know, definitely something that we try and do on the platform now is really try and foster a kind of community feel that, you know, like anyone doing anything and putting themselves on the line, we really try and get behind and show support for, because I think, you know, it's definitely a thing. And I know I'm having some kind of like self-reflection. I'm like a loud, confident person, but so maybe it is easier for me. But there are also people who don't have those kind of like personality traits, but have a brilliant idea and might not feel so confident because of the environment that they've grown up in, kind of like putting themselves out there. So I definitely think that, you know, people should be making an effort to really show their support if their mates are doing these kind of things and really get behind it, definitely.
And not just behind a screen. And as a result, did you see suddenly a viral video happen on Facebook?
No, I didn't.
Was there a positive consequence to this part of the story?
I think, some of those little, you know, tricks, I guess, worked to an extent. So the I guess, to an extent, maybe the Tinder one, definitely the asking all of my friends into groups and getting them to help spread the word. One more thing that I did do quickly, which actually really did help, was again with this idea of wanting to hone in on people that I didn't know as being the really important people to try and get involved. Every time a new person liked the page on Facebook, which I was checking sort of religiously once every 10 seconds, I would go onto their Facebook profile and I drafted up this message. I'd send them a message from my own personal account and I'd say, look, I've seen you've just liked my new page, Mob Kitchen. I'm the founder. We're really trying to like draft in people who aren't part of my friendship circle. I want to transfer you 10 quid if you download this Google Chrome extension, which allows you to invite all of your friends to like a Facebook page in one click. And I'm going to send you all of the steps that you need to do in order to download this. Once I've seen that you've done it, I will then transfer you a tenner. And that actually did work. That was...
How many people?
Maybe 10, 15,000.
Oh, wait. Where's the money coming from? Did you have investment at that point?
No, I did it. I mean, 10, 15,000 is like, it's like 150, 160 people. So it's like 160 quid.
Oh, right. Sorry. I thought you said like 10 to 15,000 people. So I was like...
No, 10 to 15,000 new followers.
Right.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the... Exactly. That was a really good one, actually, because the moment someone did it, there was suddenly this barrage of new followers that came in. And again, I feel very fortunate that I was building Mob just at the end of Facebook, because you just can't do anything like that on Instagram now. And now Instagram is so saturated that if you're looking to get into that kind of game, it's much more difficult, basically, because you don't have that. Your content only comes from one place, basically, whereas Facebook, you're sharing onto a newsfeed that gets shared, and suddenly it's out of your control, and it's all over the place. So
Zuckerberg will be very pleased. Well, stepping away from Facebook, maybe into something that is much more talked about right now, can you tell us, please, the second rule that you have broken, please, Ben?
I broke the rule, follow the GDPR laws, which this actually probably could get me in a bit of trouble currently. But,
and that means you have to tell us everything. As someone that's like a tech phobe, can you explain exactly what this is and why you decided to break it?
I moronically don't actually know what GDPR stands for. All I know is the GDPR laws were really kind of, I'm not sure if they existed before, but really were brought into play after the big kind of data scandal at Facebook. And these are laws that are, actual real laws that basically look at protecting people's data and their information online. So things like, sharing of emails, sharing of data, all of that thing that the person whose information it is hasn't explicitly given their consent for is now illegal. And there definitely wasn't such a black and white when I did what I did, but no, if I did it now, then you could get into quite a serious amount of trouble for it. So
what did you do?
After all of these harebrained schemes that I was doing in the first 4 months of launching Mob, by Christmas we got to, I think we were on about 12,000 followers on Facebook, 4,000 followers on Instagram. So good, but nowhere near being big enough for any, big brand sponsor to pay any interest.
And I'm assuming, sorry, I haven't asked you this, was that always the goal?
That was the goal, yeah. I mean, the business model, the primary business model then and at the moment still is branded content. So brands basically paying us to appear in a series of our recipe videos. And, there are lots of big brands that work with big publishers like BuzzFeed and Jungle Creations, and the money in it's massive. But you need to be able to guarantee big reach and big views and that kind of thing. And at the beginning of Mob, I went onto Tesco online and I wrote down the name of every single brand, literally, that I would be able to get in touch with. And part of my kind of like day-to-day existence was literally emailing anyone connected to that brand. So PR agencies, media agencies, whoever worked in-house on their social media team, their marketing team, their sales team, pitching constantly, and no one was really paying any attention. And by about January, it was in a fairly desperate state. I had run out of content. I didn't have any money. I had to team up with my best mate from school, Rupert, and he's a kind of keen cameraman, and he basically agreed to film another batch of videos for me for free if I gave him a small chunk of the business, which I did. And but it was nowhere near anything resembling a business, and it was actually pretty much on its knees. And I was almost having to basically concede and be like, this isn't going to work, or I'm going to have to get something else full time to run concurrently.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, basically, what needs to happen is, what I need to unlock is just kind of fast tracking this audience growth. And once I've done that, I'm then going to be able to go to the brands and they're going to be able to pay me the money, which I'm going to be able to reinvest in growing the platform. And I needed to kind of just trigger that cycle of events.
Yeah.
And so one of my best mates was working at a big food brand, which I'm not going to name, and he was working in their media department, and in the media departments of all these big food brands, they have these huge email databases of journalists and influencers and people working in television and radio and people working in supermarkets and groceries. I mean, it's like the holy grail, basically, and all of these big brands have it. And I think you can pay for them or whatever, but, I couldn't do that at that point. And so, yeah, I mean, he emailed it to me, and I...
Wait, did you ask, did you beg him? Because I can just imagine how scary that must have been. Well, maybe not. Maybe he just wanted to help you out.
He's my best friend. So he...
No bribe tactics.
I did have to put a little bit of pressure, because he was like, this 100% isn't legit. And I was like, no one's going to know. It doesn't matter. I'm, whatever. I definitely won't reference where I got this list from. And yeah, he sent me this list with probably about 6,500 email addresses that that were all completely specific and related to my industry, because he works for a food brand, so they were all food. Everything was food. And so, yeah, I got all of these email addresses one evening, on like a Tuesday evening. I was sitting around at home. I drafted up this email that had about 8 typos in it. I was so excited to get it out. And I dumped an email on about 6,000 people, and got, 3,000 out of offices, 2,000 this person no longer works here, 1,000 delivered, and yeah, the next day I got an email from the head of lifestyle at the Evening Standard and the head of lifestyle at the Mail Online. Obviously, neither of them had that much to write about that week, and they both said that they were really interested in doing a piece about Mob. And they both did do a piece about Mob. So the Evening Standard one, it was interesting actually seeing the difference in, how effective they were, because the Mail Online one was obviously online, the biggest online media, establishment. And then the Evening Standard one was a print piece in the Evening Standard in the actual paper. So kind of like very different mediums, and the result from them was also quite different. I was much more excited about the Mail Online one.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
Sure enough, it went up. It wasn't massive, the spike, but maybe like 6,000 or 7,000 followers on Facebook, a couple of thousand on Instagram. So really kind of like boosted it nicely, and was the first time where the Mob kind of, the Mob name was out on Google and searchable, and the first kind of news piece. No, actually, that one was after the Evening Standard. So that was the first news piece online. The Evening Standard one, I don't know why, I just didn't really think about it as being that big. But, they came to my house, they took a photograph of me. I cooked with their Sam Fishwick, who's a great guy. I cooked with him. And he did this interview, and yeah, it went live like a week later, and it was massive. It was like really, suddenly like the most dead email you've ever seen was my email for 4 months in starting Mob, and suddenly there were, in one day, literary agents, very book related, lots of literary agents, HarperCollins, Ebury, which is an imprint in Penguin Random House. All got in touch and said, we'd love to meet with you, we'd love to see you, and not a lot transpired from it. The book deal came much further along the line, but it was like that positive from putting out so much for 5 months and not getting anything back, and suddenly people just giving a little feeler back, and just that was enough to really kind of like, because I was losing kind of confidence and momentum, and that was enough to give me the spur that I needed to, meetings in London and like, all that kind of thing was like exciting and kept me going.
And was that the kind of big trigger to then get more brands on board to start supporting you and making it into an actual business?
Yeah, so actually completely by chance and not thought out, I had plonked a Filippo Berio olive oil bottle in the photograph that ended up in the Evening Standard, and their head of marketing sent me an email being like, thanks so much. wish I could take credit for that. What would have been a genius idea, but was like honestly just by chance. And they said we'll give you 1,800 quid to do 5 videos.
So was that your first?
That was our second one, and our first one came just before that, but after the articles from Yo Valley, who said we'll give you 500 quid for 2 videos. And I mean, it was like nothing and couldn't really sustain anything, but like, God, to hear an actual recognised brand say we're going to give you money to appear in your videos.
Is a big brand.
Yeah.
I love their yogurt.
Exactly. And so they gave us 500 quid. Filippo Berio came in. Cheerio Tin Tomatoes, CIRIO.
Yeah.
They saw that we were working with Filippo Berio, and they got in touch, and like suddenly things began to start ticking away a little bit. More brands were getting in touch. The money that we were getting from those brands, we were then pumping straight back. I was then pumping straight back into Facebook marketing. Has been our like primary paid growth tool. It's incredibly cost efficient. We were paying at that stage maybe like 10-11p for a new follower, which is unheard of if you're following other forms of advertising. So we were able to put the money back into the Facebook advertising, and the page was then growing, and with the increased growth, we were then able to ask for more from the brands, and it was really beginning to get exciting. And Rupert and I were filming. He had a full-time job in London. I'd rent a van, drive down, pick him up with all the gear in London, drive back. We'd shoot 10 recipes in a weekend. I'd then spend the next 2 weeks editing the recipes, uploading them online, and then when we ran out of content again, I'd drive down, pick him up, and we'd do that cycle. And that went on for like 6 or 7 months. And that really kind of like drove my parents completely insane, because we were like
from their kitchen.
Yeah.
So this is all proof that you've basically broken something that if you were working at like a big corporate, you would be absolutely fired on the spot.
You'd be fired on the spot, yeah. 100%. There'd be press about it. You'd be screwed. Yeah.
So since then, have you broken any other rules that if you were in a corporate company, you would also be fired for?
Oh, God.
Do you have HR?
Yeah, me. No, we've had a couple of. No, we haven't broken any. We haven't done anything illegal. We've had a couple of fairly savage PR blunders.
What?
We did this one that was so moronic. It was April Fool's. Everyone was doing all these things, and I messaged the team. I was staying at my parents' house, and I was in the train back to London that morning. And I'd already got my girlfriend on something, I don't know what, and I was all into it, and I thought, let's put something out on Mob about April Fools. And for some reason, I just decided that I was like, if we put something out that shows that we're doing a big new change in direction for the platform, it's going to really annoy people. So I said, let's put out a post that says Mob Kitchen is going gluten-free. So they drew up the post for me, and I was uploading it, and I wrote this whole spiel where I was like, Mob, I just need to let you know I've been like quietly suffering for the last 7 months, and it's been awful, and I haven't really thought about it, and I didn't really know what it was, and last week I got diagnosed as gluten intolerant, and it's a massive relief to finally have a diagnosis, and we're going to change the direction of the channel to be gluten-free. I am so naive.
Liella is like
I'm so naive, but I have I just like didn't really know about celiacs.
By the way, I'm a celiac
really?
Right here, so I would be so happy.
Anyway, well, the celiacs are I mean, of course, like, it was a really insensitive post, but I'm
almost crying.
It was no, it got really out of hand. We got there were hundreds and hundreds of comments that quickly ramped up. I saw it and thought, the first few comments coming in, I thought, oh, people are just being.
What were they saying?
They were like saying like you're making light of something that can lead to cancer. Like it got really serious, and then suddenly, when it gets really serious, when like the criticism comes off Instagram, we started getting emails to our Hello at Mob account. Tweets were going out. And then one of my other best mates decided that it would be funny to like get me while I was on my knees, and he rang me up pretending to be a Mail Online reporter and said, we want to do a piece about this, and set out this email address. And at which point I actually had a full-blown panic attack. And I was like, God, all my work has gone down the drain. And Yeah, we quickly issued an apology, which I think did some way to kind of like grasp back. But yeah, we definitely lost 2,000
Really?
gluten-free mobbers. Yeah.
But surely you were doing it to kind of poke fun at the wellness wankers.
Yeah, we were, of course, yeah. But it was, I think there was something in my copy on the description about like having suffered for a long time and like finally having a diagnosis that really missed the mark.
Yeah.
I think if we'd maybe like not had that bit and just like made it just like maybe just the post, it would have been all right. But something about that seemed to be slightly like making light of what is, you know, a very serious condition that people struggle with.
So your apology is meant heartfelt.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess alongside that, they're kind of rules that you've broken and you wouldn't have been able to get away with if you were working within a corporate structure. Is there any desire for you to have some form of structure within the business that isn't just kind of pure creative flow?
I definitely think, you know, rules of I guess like, you know, simple rules, I guess more of just conduct within the office and the studio. We have the four of us working at Mob full time. There's me, Alice is 23, Michael's 24, Dan is 23, our intern is 19, our two part-time editors are 19. It's a very, very young group of us. And you know, and it's a really fun environment, and there are times where, you know, definitely when we were kind of growing, it's become a bit more formal now, but when we were growing, it was just felt like you were hanging around in your university like living room with your mates playing FIFA. And I found that I was beginning to yearn for just a little bit more structure within the studio, about kind of like being much more rigid about the content that we were putting up, making sure it was all like very formulaic and in line, and you know, that there was consistency, and you know, having a more professional attitude to responding to people and responding to emails and all that kind of thing. So I guess for me, yeah, the area that we've wanted to be more, the area that I've kind of yearned for a little bit more rigidity on, and being a little bit more formal, has just been that kind of office atmosphere, while we all have a really good time, making sure that we are all kind of like really sticking to our jobs and whatever. And it doesn't help with what I do, because I'm the most absent-minded, flitty person ever. I'm 1 second I'm like, we've all got to focus on this. Oh no, we've all got to focus on this, whatever. So it can be a complete nightmare working with me, I know, but yeah.
Ben, will you throw us into the third and final rule that you have broken, please?
The third rule that I have broken is that porn sells.
Please, can you clarify that we're not going to now talk about porn?
No, we're not. We're talking specifically about food porn, and it was due to what I believe was an oversaturation of food porn in the online media market that I came up with the idea of Mob Kitchen, and that I believed that we needed to break that rule in order to create something that was new and that was different and that was very much needed.
So can you just first of all explain what actually is food porn? In my head, it's like anything that melts, so like melted cheese, oozing chocolate.
Yeah, I think it's... Yeah, I mean, no, I like to, because I think you can have, you know, we've got recipes with melting cheese in it. I think the way that I like to think about food porn is video content or photography content that is posted online that doesn't have the end goal of, you know, wanting someone to actually go out and cook that recipe or wanting them to think that they can recreate it. The end goal is them to just look at it and go, oh my God, look at that.
Yeah. What a weird thing that we just watch videos of like porn-like food. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
I don't want to slate it completely, because I think it does serve a purpose. I think, you know, there is these channels are like escapism, you know. You watch these videos and it's like it's nice and it's fun, you know. You're sitting down, you're working, and then suddenly someone's showing you how to make like a triple deep fried chocolate brownie pizza. But
what is the end goal of watching that?
It's interesting, fun, escapist content. It's, you know, what's the goal in watching Netflix? You know, it's like,
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I think these. I don't want to like bash content, because I think people posting. I think, you know, there is a it serves a purpose. People are posting fun, interesting content. If you're writing an essay and you're feeling stressed out about something and then you see this video pop up, it alleviates that stress for just that 1 minute while you're watching it. It's escapist, basically. And while I'm not like advocating that things that are like getting you glued to your Instagram and your Facebook more are 100% a good thing, I'd say, you could level the same criticism that you level at food porn at quite a lot of different content. But what I do have a problem with is that firstly, well, I think what I really have a problem with is that what was clear is that the food content that our generation were consuming the most was this food content. It was the content that was most eye-catching, most appealing, and that kind of thing. And the issue with it is that if this is the food leader that people are following, this food leader isn't showing people how to actually cook. This food leader is unrealistic, escapist, and food porny. So what I believed needed to happen is, and they do it because it amasses masses of views and engagement and reach and that kind of thing. I believe that we needed to break that rule of food porn rules all on social media in order to create a platform, a food platform that could actually do some good with the young generation that were watching it.
So what was your kind of clear philosophy from the off, or your ethos? What did you want to achieve?
I wanted to create the captivating food content that our generation was so clearly having a connection with, the food porn content, but with realistic, doable recipes that people were actually going to go out and cook. So not creating the content with the end of getting 100 million views on Facebook, creating the content with the end of getting 100 people to cook the dish. The issue with that for us is while we have the capabilities to make that food porn content whenever we want, we can't do it, and it also means that we can't, unlock that kind of viral nature that those food porn videos do reach. So it ultimately meant that by following this, we were kind of accepting that we were probably going to be having slower growth. We weren't going to be able to be putting out videos that would hit 100 million views. We're going to be putting out videos like, I don't know what, Mexican chicken salad with lots of fresh vegetables, sounds delicious, doesn't look as like unbelievably weird as a deep fried brownie, but people are actually going to cook it. So I think ultimately for us, by breaking that rule, it meant much slower growth, such slow growth that it almost didn't really work out, but actually what it did allow us to do is really kind of like foster a much more meaningful community that really uses our platform and has a proper connection with the brand, rather than just thinking that the videos that we're uploading are kind of like funny and kooky. And so I think, definitely in the long run, it was a good decision.
Yeah, it means people can actually take something away from the content and then it actually affects their lives.
Still to this day, I've never heard someone say the sentence, I'm going to cook one of those tasty recipes for dinner with my mates. I've never heard anyone say that sentence. And yeah.
I think one thing that's really cool about what you do is that it's £10 for all the ingredients, whereas sometimes it's another form of clickbait, I guess, when they say this recipe costs less than £10 to make, but actually you have to go away and buy like bulk of all of the ingredients, which then means it's going to be like triple the amount.
Yeah, so just for clarity, at the moment we are on the online side. We don't stick to the feed for under a tenner thing. All of our recipes are very affordable, with I guess like differing food prices across the country and across stores. The majority of the feedback that we were getting is, either you guys could say that garlic is way cheaper because actually you can get it for 15p at Lidl, not 30p at Tesco.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, what are you talking about? You can't get garlic for 30p at Waitrose or whatever. That's my local. So we don't stick to that so strictly now, although all of the recipes are very affordable and are very accessible, and we haven't heard anything otherwise since making that decision, which is very encouraging. But yeah, I mean, I think definitely when it comes to clickbaity stuff about budget cooking, that was one of the things that I had a real reaction against when I was at university. When someone says to you, that I love Miguel Barkley, who is the guy that runs £1 meals, but and I think it's a really cool concept, and it excites people, and it obviously inspires people to cook really good food on a budget. Sometimes when I look at taglines like that, I find they can slightly put me off a little bit, because I automatically have that cynical part of my brain thinking, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to do this for £1, especially if I'm cooking for 4 of us. I'm going to have to go to the shop. I'm not going to be able to buy a teaspoon of cumin. I'm going to have to buy the whole damn jar. And it's going to end up costing me £15. And I think like that barrier and that like difference, or that realization at the beginning, is a massive barrier between seeing it and then actually going out and buying the ingredients. So one thing that we have stuck true to from the beginning, and even though we don't stick so much to the feed 4 for under 10, and now we don't stick so much to that kind of tagline anymore, has always just been be very, very upfront about how many ingredients in a dish, what people are going to have to buy, what the ingredients in the dish cost at their full price in the supermarket. And I think that really got people involved in the platform, and yeah.
Yeah, and I guess on Instagram specifically, that's something that is quite rare now. It's very rare where we see reality actually on our screen, and it sounds like you're doing that. It's kind of being as upfront and honest as you possibly can be. That's great. Ben, to finish us off, will you tell us one rule you will never break, please?
So the rule that I will never break is ask for advice. I guess you are told to ask for advice and to listen to other people's opinions throughout your life when you're growing up. Definitely to listen to other people's opinions and thoughts about a certain thing. And it can be incredibly difficult when you're building a business and you've got a very clear vision on something. Listening to other people's thoughts on it. I'm an incredibly stubborn person. If I've made my mind up about something and then someone tells me they don't like it, or they think that it's they think that it might be a bad idea, then actually I have had this from the beginning, because I've been aware of the importance of it. But I think there is often a temptation to put it away and say, no, I don't want to listen to you. I've made my mind up about this. But pretty much every good decision that I've made from Mob has been as a result of taking in and ingesting bits of advice and tips that lots of that my close friends or my girlfriend or my family have given me along the way. And I 100% wouldn't be where Mob wouldn't be where it is today if I had ignored everyone's advice, ignored everyone's thoughts, and just stuck stubbornly to my line right from the beginning.
And now that you are at a place of great success, do you still find yourself kind of wanting to get some reassurance or validation, or even some guidance in any way from people now?
100%. It's not so much reassurance or validation. I don't think I need that in order to kind of persevere in any different kind of directions. Rather, I always seek people's advice and opinions on things that I have got, a really clear vision and idea about in my head. A prime example, which I am currently embroiled in right now, and there still isn't a solution, and it's been screwing my sleep for the last 5 nights, has been our Mob Blends, which is our big new project. It's our first. We've got the 2 cookbooks, but it's the first product that I have developed from scratch, that we have 100% ownership over, and then we're trying to get into retail. And I'm crap with numbers. I don't know anything about sales. I don't know anything about products. This has been a massive learning curve for me.
Just to clarify, it's spice blends, right?
Spice blends. Yeah. 4 different spice blends: herb, piri-piri, curry, and jerk. They're delicious. They're amazing. They're better than anything on the market. the packaging has been like a roller coaster, really difficult, creating something that stands out and is bold, but also kind of sticks true to the brand. And after 4 or 5 months of developing, we finally had our Mob Blend design, which was a 120mm squat ointment jar. So a glass jar that you would normally see cosmetic creams kept in, with a lovely silver aluminium lid, and then white see-through labels around the edge and on the lid that say Mob Blends and the name of the blend. So it was all ready, and they look really slick on their own. But I've had 2 meetings in the last 6 days with people who are, one person from Sainsbury's and someone else who owns a brand that I really admire, and I really trust his opinion. And they've both said the exact same thing, where they say in isolation these look stunning and beautiful, but what you have to understand is they are going to be on a shelf next to 100 different jars and whatever. I just for some reason hadn't thought about that, because I've never had to. And you've got to think about how they look next to things. Sainsbury's have a glass jar with a silver aluminium lid, and they look relatively similar sitting next to each other. And I'm kicking myself because I've done so much work for these over the last 4 months. I mean, like, tirelessly been working on them, spent quite a lot of money on the development, and we've already released 3 final images professionally shot onto our Instagram. There's a whole Mob Blends Instagram page that people are now following. There are decks that have been drawn up. There are videos that have been shot with them. So we are quite far along the line here. And I've had this advice from 2 people that I really trust, and I think ignoring that advice would be nothing short of completely foolish, even though I think personally I've backed it the whole way and I think they look really strong. So yeah.
So now what do you do?
Well, now I'm having calls with our manufacturers up in Leeds once every hour about talking to them about the production of a black aluminium lid, which will completely set them apart and look really strong. But I guess the issue is, there is going to be some money down the drain. We're going to have to get new ones. It's going to put everything on hold for a little bit. But they look really strong and the designs have been mocked up. And I'm hoping that we have got what would be a relatively cost-free solution, even though I am left looking like a little bit of an idiot having released all this imagery online, and only to go back 2 days later and be like, hang on a second, Mob, actually I've screwed up a little bit, here's the change. But it is sticking true to what I think is the most important rule, which is don't just be stubborn, always listen to people's advice, always heed their advice, definitely people that are involved in that industry, and act accordingly and act upon it, or else you will definitely come a cropper and you'll lose more in the long run.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you. You are clearly a visionary black sheep, so thank you. Please continue to make delicious food for us all to enjoy. Thanks.
Thank you.